Hey guys, welcome back to Release the Craftin. Priscilla here with another episode of Storycraft. Storycraft, where of course I tell you guys a story and I do a craft. And if you're interested, I have a Patreon. Check it out. It's linked down below. I do cool stuff over there. Okay, thanks. I was gonna say bye, but not bye. We're getting into the story. So the story I'm telling today is Katie Crackernuts, and it's a story from the Orkney Isles. And I saw it in the Andrew Lang collection of fairy tales, but it's also the version that I guess I'm the most familiar with is the one in Vasilisa the Wise and Other Tales of Brave Young Women by Kate Forsyth. So I'm going to be borrowing a lot from her version in my story because it's the one I'm most familiar with, like I said. So at any rate, let's just jump into it because this story's fun. I'm excited to tell it to you. You're gonna notice as I tell you the story that it's got some stuff that we've seen before in other fairy tales, especially if you've been following along with my series of Storycraft. And yeah, I think you guys are gonna like it because you liked those stories. So I'm hoping that you're gonna like this one. So yeah, Katie Crackernuts begins in the way long ago. There was a beautiful girl named Kate. And she lived with her father, who was an earl. And unfortunately, she had no mother. Her mother died when she was very young. And the earl was like, I think it's been long enough. I think it's about time I get remarried. And there just so happens to be this noble lady who has a daughter your own age. So, if I get married to her, it'll be like you have a sister and a best friend and everything all rolled into one. And so, Kate, being a very affable young woman, was like, yeah, absolutely, go ahead and get remarried. And so her father does, and the new wife brings home her daughter, also named Kate. But for the purposes of this story, will be, in fact, Katie, because otherwise I will go crazy trying to keep them apart. So we have Kate and Katie. And wouldn't you guys know it? They actually get along. They're thick as thieves right off the bat. Kate and Katie are inseparable. They are besties for the resties, forevermore. And while they're hanging out, having a great time, having the time of their lives, the new wife, Kate's stepmother, is like, yeah, this is all great and everything, this marriage, everything is going so swimmingly, except I can't help but notice that Kate is actually prettier than my daughter, Katie, which means that she's going to get all the best stuff. She's going to get the best choice of husband. She's going to get all the money. She's going to get everything that pretty privilege affords. While my poor Katie, slightly comely, regular-looking Katie, is going to be left in the dust. So she comes up with this plan, working with an old cunning woman or a hen wife, to do something that will forever mar the face of Kate. And so the cunning woman's like, yeah, I can help you with that. I got magic to mess up girls' faces, no problem. Tell her to come to visit me on an empty stomach. I'll take care of the rest. So the stepmother tells Kate one morning, go down to the cunning wife's house and get some eggs. And Kate's like, yeah, okay. And she's like, go right now before you've had breakfast. Go. And so Kate's like, okay, all right. Don't know what the rush is, but she goes. And as she goes, she grabs a little crust of bread from the kitchen on her way out because she's like, it's so freaking early. I'm so freaking hungry. I'm not going to go on an empty stomach walking all into this woods just to go get some eggs, even though we're rich and probably have our own chickens. So, she goes over to the cunning wife's house. And when she gets there, the cunning wife is like, hey, thanks for coming by. The eggs are in this pot that you see bubbling on the stove. If you just want to go lift the lid and get your eggs. And Kate's like, yeah, okay. So she goes over to the stove. She lifts up the lid and she's like, this is soup. It's just soup in this pot. And the cunning wife is like, oh my God, go home and tell your mom that she needs to guard the kitchen door better. So she's like, okay, well, shit. So she goes home. She tells her mom what happened. And the stepmom's like overflowing with rage. She's so angry that she's like, you're going to go back tomorrow and you're going to get the eggs and I'm going to escort you to the gate because this is ridiculous. And then now Kate is feeling some kind of way. She's like, oh my God, I feel so bad. And she's a little bit scary. And this lady, I barely know her. And she's just so angry at me all the time. And I guess I fucked up getting the eggs. So the next morning, the stepmother gets up with Kate and she's like, go get the eggs, go straight there, come back, don't dilly dally, don't have any snacks on the way, just go. And she's like, okay, yeah, it's urgent, these eggs that we probably have in abundance, but yeah, whatever you say. So she goes to get the eggs. You know, the stepmother walks with her to the gate, watches her walk into the woods, and the stepmom goes back inside thinking, okay, well, that's a done deal. Everything's done. I got it. We're covered. Incorrect. Wrong. Because on the way to the cunning woman's house, Kate's like, hey, there's berries in these there bushes, and I'm going to have some. So she has a couple handfuls of berries on her way to the cunning wife's house. And when she gets there, it's the same song and dance again. The cunning wife is like, look in the pot, get your eggs. And Kate's like, again, it's a pot on a stove. But sure, whatever you say. So she lifts the lid. She's like, it's soup, not eggs. And then the cunning wife is like, oh my God, go home and tell your mother how you failed. And she's like, I don't understand this riddle that you guys are making me play, but okay. So she does, and she goes home, and she's even more concerned about angering her stepmother this time. And she tells her, and the stepmother, of course, is absolutely angry. And she's like, tomorrow, I'm going to take you there because apparently this was way too hard of a task for you to accomplish. And Kate, still not understanding what she's done wrong and a little bit fearful of how angry her stepmother is, just, agrees to everything because she's a very agreeable, lovely young woman. That's why everybody likes her. It's not just because she's pretty. It's because she's a people pleaser. And so, the next day, the stepmother walks with her all the way to the cunning wife's house. And when they get there, they're like, look in the pot already. And she's like, oh my God, okay. And I have to tell you guys, this happens in the story. On the way there, Kate keeps pointing out all the things that she could eat in the forest. She's like, oh, there's some apples. Oh, there's some berries. Oh, there's some nuts. And the whole way, the stepmom is like, you're so fat. Oh my God. She fat shames her the entire way to keep her from eating. And it's effective. It's 100% effective because she's a young girl and it will absolutely mold your mind to have an adult woman tell you you're fat while you're walking around. So yeah, Kate's stepmother, in case anybody was wondering, is a villain. So when they get to the cunning wife's house, she has to go. She goes over to the pot by the stove and the fire. I have no words. I don't understand what's happening to my words right now. I'm so flustered. She goes to the stove by the fire. She lifts up the lid, and except this time, she doesn't see eggs, but she also doesn't see soup. She's the head of a sheep floating in the broth, which I guess is still technically soup. A gross soup, but a soup. But the thing that happens when she lifts up this lid and sees the head of a sheep is that the head of the sheep jumps out of the pot and wraps around her face like an alien face hugger and becomes her head. The sheep's head is her head now. And try as she might, Kate is trying to rip off the sheep, and she's trying to free herself, and she can't. But it comes with another problem, is that she can't speak anymore. All she can do is go bah like a sheep. That's my best sheep impression. I'm not good at animal impressions, guys. So, embarrassed, humiliated, and now with a sheep's head, Kate has to sneak her way back home to make sure that nobody can see her. And she goes back inside the castle. Nobody sees her, which is crazy. I bet you every servant saw her and she just thought she was being sneaky. And she hides in her room and she's crying, but it's more like meh, meh, because she can't actually say anything. And so by the afternoon, when afternoon rolls around, Katie shows up and she's like, let me go see my sister. And when she goes to visit her sister's room is all locked up tight. And of course, Katie doesn't let locked doors stop her from doing anything. So she barges on in and she's like, Kate, what's up? What's going on? I thought we were hanging out today. And she sees poor disheveled Kate hanging out by her fire, crying into her hands through the eyes of her sheep's head. And Katie's like, oh my God, who did this? And because Kate is a sheep, all she can say is, ma, ma. And then, Katie puts two and two together. And she's like, oh, it's my mother. My mother did it to you. Okay, well, let's get the fuck out of here then. So Katie grabs her sister by the hand, packs up their cloaks, and they literally just take off. They take off. They go out into the world to find their fortunes. They don't go back home. I'm just telling you guys that right now. They never come back to this place. So the stepmother never gets any comeuppance. Nobody knows what happened to these girls. They literally just fuck off in the afternoon and nobody looks for them again in the story. It's wild. So they walk all day, way into the late hours of the evening, when they show up to this castle and they knock on the door and the housekeeper answers. And Katie's like, hey, my sister, whose head I happened to cover in a shawl on the way here so nobody could see that she had the head of a sheep, and I would like to stay the night at your castle if you would let us. We're really tired from walking all day, and it sucks to sleep outside. So if we could just sleep in there, that would be great. And the housekeeper's like, yeah, we have enough sick people here. The prince of the castle is really sick, and everybody who sits with him uh, just disappears in the night, and we don't know what happens. And so we just don't want to fuck with whatever you got going on here with this shawl all around her head. We don't want to do that. And Kitty's like, okay, well, I really need shelter. So what if I offer to sit with the prince? Can we like stay the night? And so the housekeeper thinks about it, and she's like, yeah, okay. Okay. Any hesitation I had to the fact that your sister might be carrying the plague or leprosy, I'm going to throw that out the window because I need someone to sit with this guy. He's dying and nobody else can do it because they keep disappearing. So as you know, the housekeeper lets her in. She tells her it's been like 6 servants who have already disappeared. Nobody wants to sit with the prince. Every day his health gets worse. And yeah, it just generally sucks. And she shows into a room and she's like, here, make yourself comfortable. And they do that. Katie gets Kate all settled in. Kate is exhausted, by the way, guys. She's been up since the early hours of the morning. Thought she was getting eggs. Now she's got the sheep's head. She goes right to Betty by. She's like, fuck, I'm out. And Katie, I'm already messing up. Trying to lock in. Katie goes out to the housekeeper. She's like, all right, I'm ready. Let's go sit with the prince. And the housekeeper's like impressed that she's so driven to do this task that she got told that everyone disappears from. So she shows Katie to the room, and the prince is in there in the bed, and he's like rolling around. He's miserable looking. He's skinny. He looks exhausted. And she's like, wow, he really does look sick. Okay, gross. And she goes and she sits with him anyways, and she just chills out. And she does her little embroidery. She sits by the fire. She's chilling. And then as it gets closer to midnight, the prince is like, oh, help me. Somebody help me. And she's like, don't worry, prince. I'm here. I'm going to help you. I got you. And she dabs his forehead with a nice little cloth. And she's like giving him tea. And she's like, here, I got you. I'm going to take care of you. And, she's thinking he's just really sick and having like a man cold. That's not the case, because at exactly midnight, he jumps up out of bed, gets completely dressed in his fine velvet clothes, and starts to walk out. And she's like, hey, well, where are you going? So she jumps up and she goes after him because she's like, I'm responsible for you. I can't leave you. And she follows him all the way outside. They pass everybody, but nobody sees them. Which I can't like stress enough that there are people in this castle who definitely would have seen people just walking through it. That's how castles work. There's servants everywhere, but nobody sees them. So he goes down to the stable. He saddles up his horse, gets on his horse, and then Kitty's like, oh shit. And she like, I don't know, does like a pole vault. What's it called? That horse thing that they jump in the Olympics. I forgot what it's called, and now the joke is ruined. But she does that, a little vault horse thing onto the horse. So she's now riding on the back of the horse. The prince doesn't notice because he's like in a trance. And he rides off, and they ride for quite some time until they approach this big, giant, like massive green hill. And in front of the green hill is like a grove of hazelnut trees. And so the prince like gets off the horse. Katie slides down after him. She's like, oh my God, I love hazelnuts. So she grabs like a handful of them, starts sticking them in her little apron pockets. And the prince walks up to the hill, and he's like, hey, open, let me in, hill. And Katie's like, and the lady that's with him, just throws that in there at the end. And the hill actually does open up, and like there's a big giant hall in there. So they go inside together, and Katie's like, I'm gonna duck behind one of these banisters real quick because I just feel like I'm not supposed to be here. And as she ducks behind the banister, the doors open up, and she can see this giant, massive ballroom, which she also sneaks into behind the prince, like hot on his heels. She finds another little pole to like hide behind, and she's watching everything. And it's a court of fairies, you guys. I'm talking fairies, elves, gnomes, dwarves, goblins, anything you can think of in the fairy realm, like a Brian Froud painting. It's in there, okay? And there's all these fairies there, and they take the prince and they take him out to the middle of the dance floor, and they make him dance. And they make him dance and dance and dance. And as Kitty's looking around, she's taking in all the sights, and she sees in the corners, like in the little dark, shadowy recesses, that there are servants helping out the fairies and serving them at this big party that they're apparently having in the middle of the night, but they're all human. all the servants are human, and she suddenly realizes what's happened to all the people who was sitting with the prince. They've all become enslaved to the fairy court. So she's like, oh shit, okay, I'm gonna stay hidden. I don't want to get caught by any fairies. So she makes sure that she stays well, good, and hidden, and she watches as the prince dances for hours until he drops to the ground. He's so exhausted. And the fairies, they just shake him, they pick him back up, and they make him keep dancing some more. And this happens all night until the rooster crows. The first crow, and then he gets up and he walks back out, and Katie's like hot on his heels, like, I ain't getting stuck in no fairy hill. And she follows him out, and he gets back up on his horse. She pole vaults or whatever back onto the horse. I don't know how she gets up there. Pommel horse. That's what it's called. I could feel you guys yelling it at me. She does that up onto the horse, and they ride off. And by the time, the rooster has finished crowing, they are all back inside. He's back in bed. He's exhausted. She's tucking him in. She's like, hey, just take a rest. She sits down by the fire. She starts cracking open the hazelnuts she has in her pocket and munching on them. And the housekeeper comes in expecting to see just the prince in the room. And she's like, oh my God, you're still alive. And she's like, yeah, I am. And she's like, how are you here? And she's like, well, obviously you see, I made it the night. I'm here. And the housekeeper's like, oh, would you like to sit with him another night? And Katie's like, yeah, for a bag of gold. So the housekeeper's like, yeah, I'll tell the Earl, then he'll arrange it. So she goes and tells the Earl, who comes down with his son, because there's another son, there's a younger son, and they're like stunned and amazed and astonished that Katie is still alive and still there with their friends. And so he's like, okay, yeah, bag of gold, you got it. Here's a bag of silver for doing it last night. And oh my God, can you believe that she's still here and that my son is looking worse than ever, but still here? And everybody's like really talking about Katie. She's the talk of the town. And then the next night comes, and Katie shows up for her shift. And the same thing happens. The prince wakes up at midnight. They ride across the countryside. They get to the hill. She shoves some more hazelnuts in her pocket, because these girls in this family, guys, if they see food in the wild, they're picking it up. They're picking it up. That's what this family does. Okay. Both girls are like this. And, they enter into the ballroom again. Katie finds a good hiding place. She's watching what's going on, but now she's like, okay, I got to be proactive, because I can't just watch him dance all night. That's boring. So she starts sneaking around, trying to find out what's going on, see if she can get anything. And she sees that there is a fairy queen watching over all the events, and she's like mad. She's like hopping mad. She's like, make him dance until he dies, because his father wouldn't pay the fairy tithe. So, as we see, Daddy didn't pay his taxes, and now baby boy has to pay. So she's like, okay, so maybe I'll throttle the fairy queen, and that's how we'll get out of this mess. But I gotta be quick, because if I get caught, I'm gonna be like worse than a servant, probably. So she starts to sneak closer to the throne, but then she sees that, like, close to the throne, but a little off, to the side, a little behind it, around the back, is this little fairy kid who's, like, playing with a wand, and he's tap, tap, tap and stuff, and it's changing. He's turning a dragonfly into an actual dragon, and then back into a dragonfly again. And the fairies are like, oh, just 3 taps with that little wand, and you can turn anything into anything else. And Kitty's like, well, shit, say less. So she goes over to the little boy, and she's like, hey, you want a hazelnut? And she cracks open this hazelnut for this little boy. And the little boy's like excited. He's like, oh my God, num num num, gobbles it all up, right? And she's like, I have more. And then the little boy's like, more, please. And she's like, but I would need your wand though. Like, you want to trade it? And the little boy at first is like, nah, I don't want to do it. And Katie's like, man, yeah, you're right. I would hate to get these sweet, delicious hazelnuts anywhere else. And then the little boy's like, no, I changed my mind. I'll give you the wand. Give me the hazelnuts. So she cracks open the rest of the hazelnuts and trades them for the wand. And she takes the wand, puts that in her pocket. And once the rooster crows, she's back outside with the prince, who's now so exhausted he can't even get on his own horse. Okay? So she has to help him up onto the horse. And then, because he's so exhausted he can't get on the horse, he's too exhausted to ride. So she has to be the one sitting in the front, holding the reins, while the prince is like all slumped over her back, like, and she's like, okay, yeah, all right. All right, this is kind of cute, though. I think this is kind of cute, how tired you are, how sleepy you are. So she, she rides the horse all the way back to the palace. She sits down by the fire, she chills, the prince is tucked back in bed. The earl shows up with his bag of gold and his other son in hand, and he's like, you made it again. And she's like, I did. And he's like, wow, okay, well, here's your gold. So Katie takes the gold. She goes back to her room. She wakes up Kate, who's still got a sheep's head, by the way. I don't know if you guys forgot that yet. She still has a sheep's head. She pulls the wand out of her pocket, and she's like, all right, tap, tap, tap. And then Katie's, like, transformed Kate's head back into her regular head. So she's back. She's back in action. The beautiful Kate back in action. So she's like, wow, oh my God, I can't believe that worked. So Katie fills in Kate on everything that's been happening. And Kate is like, we gotta go. This is a crazy story. And she's like, no, 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 I got one more thing in me. I think I can break his curse if I go for another night. So Katie decides that she's going to stay another day. Kate's like, okay, well, I'll go make myself useful then so that we don't get booted for like hanging around this palace. So she goes off to go do some work, some good, honest work, because again, Kate is a people pleaser. And she's worried that the people who literally paid her sister a bag of gold are going to kick her out if she's not doing anything for them. So that night comes around, right? And the Earl's like, hey, thanks for sitting with my son again. I really appreciate it. I just, what can I give you this time? Another bag of gold? And Katie's like, what I really want is to marry this guy. I think I've like kind of grown on him. So if I can like stay another night and marry him, that would be great. And the Earl's like blinking, silent. And then he goes, you know what? If my son says it's okay, then yeah, you have my permission to marry my son. Yeah, fuck it, why not? And then he turns to his youngest son and he's like, what do you think? And his youngest son is like looking out the window and he's like, that girl in the garden is so pretty and I don't have any other thoughts about anything else, so I don't care what you do. The girl in the garden is Kate. Kate's out there. He's spying on her. He's a little sweet on her now. So the Earl and his son leave. Katie sets up for the night. Same thing. Third verse. Same as the first. They ride out to the fairy, like, hill, and they go inside, and I'm, like, running out of steam. This is so crazy. They go inside. They go to the ball. The prince has to dance. He has to dance and dance and dance. And this time she's like, okay, I got a wand from that little brat, like, so let me see what else I can get off this little kid, right? So she goes, and she sees that this little brat, and he is a little brat, you guys, has a bird. He has a little bird in a cage that he is, like, kind of shaking around, playing with, doing stuff to, poking. And she overhears the fairies go, oh, man, if that girl only had this bird and fed 3 bites of this bird to her prince, it would cure him of this curse and everything would be solved. If only she could get that bird, but she's never going to. And she's like, man, these are the most gossipy fairies I've ever seen in my life. All they do is sit back here and tell me exactly the things I need to advance the plot. And trigger warning for very rapid bird death, guys. It's coming. She goes up to the little boy. She has her pocket full of hazelnuts. And she's like, hey, it's me, hazelnut lady. I would like your bird. Would you like some hazelnuts? And the boy's like, yeah, absolutely. I want hazelnuts more than this little bird I've been torturing in this cage. And so the little fairy boy, you guys, snaps the bird's neck with his bare hand and hands it over. She didn't say she wanted a dead bird. Granted, she was going to have to kill the bird to cook it up anyways, but, like, she didn't tell the little boy to kill it. He just did that because he's a sociopath who trades things for hazelnuts. And, yeah, he takes his hazelnuts. He's having a great old time munching on those. She puts a dead bird in her pocket, and she goes back to wait at the entrance for the prince to come out, and he is dead as a doornail. He is so exhausted, you guys. He's, like, dragging ass out there. She has to hoist him up again. Katie has, like, the strength of 10 men, because I don't even know how she got him up on the horse. She rides him all the way back to the palace, and then when she gets there, she goes and she plucks the bird, and she chops it up and turns it into a little soup, cooks it up for the prince, right? And when she walks in with her little bowl of soup, the prince is like, oh, God, it smells great. And he starts to, like, revive a little, right? Starts to come back a little. And he's like, if I could only have a bite of that delicious-smelling bird. And she's like, yeah, I'll give you a bite. So she spoons him out a little bite of her little bird soup, and she gives it to him, and he sits up on his elbows, and he's like, hey, that soup is great. Could I have another bite? And she gives him a second bite, and now he sits up all the way in bed, and he's got a lot more energy. The colors come back in his cheeks, and he's like, do you think maybe I could have one more bite? And she's like, yeah, stupid. Of course, you can have as many bites as you want. So she gives him another bite of the soup, and he gets out of bed. He's so, like, energetic and restored, and he's like, I feel better than I've ever felt. He's like, you should try it, because this soup is everything I've ever asked for and more. And Katie tries the soup. It's just freaking bird soup. That's all it is. It doesn't do anything for her. But the prince is over there ranting and raving about how great he feels. So by the time the Earl comes in, he's like, oh my God, my son, you have been cured. You are restored. And I had to pay no consequences for not paying the fairies their tithe because you're totally back to normal. And everyone's like happy. They're all rejoicing. Kate comes in to see what's happening with all the commotion there. The young prince is there as well. The earl's like, oh, hey, by the way, this girl wants to marry you. This average looking girl wants to marry you. That's her much prettier sister over there, just in case you were wondering. And the prince is like, oh, no, I'm absolutely going to marry Katie. This girl saved my life. She's been like a real one the last 3 days. I'm marrying Katie. And then the younger prince is like, I could marry the pretty sister I've been staring at like a creep for the last 2 days. And people pleaser Kate says, yeah, of course I would love to marry you. And so, yeah, the sick sister marries the healthy brother, and the healthy brother, or the healthy sister, marries the sick brother. And they live happily ever after for all the rest of their days, and their cups never go empty. And yeah, that's it. That's the end of Katie Crackernuts, the story. And you guys, beyond baffling myself by choosing intentionally to keep both their names Kate, which I knew was going to do me in telling the story, I just really like this story because it's like the slipper shredding princesses, which is one of my favorite fairy tales, except that instead of a bunch of princesses going to go dance with the fairies, it's a prince. And I guess I just really enjoyed that. I also really enjoy that Katie is a girl's girl from day one. She meets her best friend and she never gives up on her. She's like, this girl is my best friend. She's my sister. I don't give a fuck about what my mom says. My mom's a piece of shit. We're going to go make right by ourselves. I'm going to cure you. I'm going to solve his problem. I'm going to solve everybody's problems. Because you might be a people pleaser, but I'm a problem solver. And that's my girl Katie. And I really just love her for that. Also, I don't understand why every time she passes by a tree, she's like, I got to put this in my pocket. But she does. And that's why they call her Katie Crackernuts, because she be cracking her nuts everywhere she goes. And I just don't, it's such a weird little bit of the story that was put in there that it has all the whimsy, but it also just, it didn't need to be in the story, but I am so glad that it was. You know what I mean? It's such an inessential thing that becomes very essential to the plot of the story. And it could have been anything. But I love it. I love this story. I also just sort of love the no-nonsense way that Katie approaches everything in the story. So I think that's why I really enjoyed it. But let me know what you guys think about the story. And what stories you would like to hear in a future Storycraft, because I am going to keep making stories. I have a list going of things that people have brought up to me that they would like to hear. I know that we're approaching the spookiest of seasons, so I would like to do some more ghost stories, hit us up with some classics maybe, stuff like that. But yeah, I would love to know if there's anything you're interested in hearing about. And until next time, guys, I appreciate your faces. Happy crafting and goodbye.